Hey people, just a short message from my part. I just came from the peace rally in Amsterdam and something quite amazing happened. As you know, David Icke was blocked from the Netherlands. He was banned from the Netherlands for 2 years and it just got extended for another 2 years. So that makes it 4 years in total. And one of the things that we did, we went to court. We had numerous court cases by now. And one of the things that the lawyer of the government kept saying is like, you shouldn't complain about freedom of speech or limiting your freedom of speech because David Icke can always speak through a video connection or in a digital way. So what we did, we asked David to make a video, which he did, which took about 10 minutes. We hired a very big screen of 5 meters wide, 3 meters high, so everybody could see him. We arranged extra sound equipment. Everything was ready. We announced last Monday, today is Sunday, so that's almost a week ago, that David Icke was going to speak by video. And what happened is that last Friday, only 2 days ago, the government sent us a letter that it was not allowed. It was not allowed to let David Icke speak through video. So then we said, okay, what are we going to do now? So we canceled the entire video screen. We had a smaller screen today and still we had quite some good sound. And I said, you know what we're going to do? I'm going to read. I'm going to write down his entire speech, the entire video. So last night I sat down, I wrote everything down. And I told them today, I said, look, I'm going to read the speech of David Icke. If David Icke cannot do it by himself, not through video, I'm going to do it on his behalf. And I also spoke with Christiane, the partner of David, and they agreed. And they said, well, Mordecai, please do so. So today we went to the demonstration. I first did my own speech, which took about 4 to 5 minutes. We kept 1 minute of silence for all the war victims and also for the fact that David Icke couldn't be there. So we had 1 minute of silence. And then I was starting the speech. And the moment I was speaking the words, hello, Amsterdam, which were the first words in David Icke's speech, the mic was shut down. And I thought there was a technical error, and I looked over my shoulder and there was our own organization that was forced by the police to shut the sound down. Now imagine this. They told me, you have to come off the stage. The police does not allow you to speak those words of David Icke on the dam. And I thought, this is impossible, because first of all, I'm not saying anything illegal. I'm not breaking any laws. Second, they don't know what David Icke said. And that's also why I put the video online. So they could have taken notice of the video before, just to be sure. And I was totally convinced that they wouldn't object, and they did. And the police told the organization, we are going to shut down the entire demonstration. We're going to take away your equipment if you do not stop the speech. So the organization kind of begged me to get off the stage and to first, it was like this. They begged me to get off the stage, and I said, no matter what, I'm going to speak the words of David Icke. And I said that on the stage, and I said, give me a megaphone. If you don't give me the sound of the speakers, I'm going to do it through a megaphone and just do the speech. And they were, no, but please, Mordecai, please. There was one more speech of Gideon van Meijeren. Let him do his speech first. And I thought, okay, you know what? Let's do that. In the meantime, the police started to call to the mayor, to Halsema, or at least someone that is in direct contact with her. And they told me, you have to wait. We are going to see if we get approval. And I told the police officer, are you kidding me? Are you really asking for approval from me to read from a piece of paper a speech of David Icke? Yes, he said, you are crossing the line. He literally said it. I could not believe it. So in the meantime, Gideon van Meijeren is now on the stage. I am getting ready to get a megaphone and probably to end up in jail tonight. That's what I thought. I thought, okay, I'm going to be ending up in jail tonight. But you know what? I don't care anymore. I'm going to take the stage. I'm going to do this speech for as long as I can. In the meantime, this police officer contacted me, and I went to him and I said, look, I'm going to do the speech. So I don't think it's a very good idea that you stop me from doing that speech. I don't think it's a good idea, and I don't think people are going to be very happy with it. But it's your choice, and it's always up to you to take this decision. And I said this before, and even after my speech, I said the same words to him. And I saw him kind of doubt, and he said, yeah, but listen, he had his phone in his hand. He said, look, I have a boss. And I told him, you know, the good thing is, I don't. And I said, well, you wait for your approval of your boss. I'm going to start the speech. And since Gideon van Meijeren already finished, I went on stage and the mic was working again. So eventually I took the mic. I actually asked the audience, like, I think that this is not the day that anyone will shut us down, and the people just went crazy. And actually we made a much bigger statement by doing it this way than it could have been in any other way. And I just started doing the speech, and I was literally ready to be arrested every single minute, every second. I think the police was still waiting for his approval. The speech finished, it took about 7 minutes, I think. You can see it online. And people were just very happy with those words. So thank you, David, for all the inspiration. I went afterwards to the police officer. I told him again, I said, look, you don't have to wait for your approval of your boss. You're the one that can take your own responsibility. You don't have to go into your own logic, because I could see that he felt bad about it. But he was like, yeah, I kind of don't have a choice. Well, you always have a choice.
Hey, Inspire Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers. It's John Nolan here. Thank you so much for tuning in for the last time in 2024, the very last days in the fake calendar, of course. We're healthy, we're wealthy, we're whole, we're free. That's the mantra of the Inspire live stream. Thank you for joining us on X, Rumble, YouTube, in a live chat. Let's do this. Let's ring this year out and ring the new year in with probably one of the most important subjects that we could cover. You know, we've shared this over the last days. What happened with David Icke? You just saw this intro video by Mordecai, who is one of the organizers and peace activists, and coincidentally a Jewish peace activist. So, you know, a good friend of David's, who's, you know, this very anti-Semitic dude, according to the Netherlands government and their judicial system. There's been enough that's been said about this ludicrous process that the Netherlands followed in going as far as using an appointed mayor, because mayors apparently do not get elected in the Netherlands, they get appointed, to use an appointed mayor to prohibit not just his face appearing on a screen and his voice appearing on loudspeakers, but also prohibit a person from reading something David Icke wrote, which is where we are. Okay, that's it. Is this a Netherlands problem? No. The UK has some of the most insane hate speech bills and online speech bills on the books, where they go and arrest people for saying something that offended someone. And most other nations have it either passed or in the works. So free speech is not under attack, my friends. They are at war with freedom on all levels, and free speech is no exemption. Today, we're going to look at what the plan and the rollout is, because these instances, like with David Icke, they're tests. They're testing it. They're testing how the people will react. They're testing if the people will revolt. They're testing if the people will stand up. That's what they're doing, because there's something already in the plans. There's a new big psyop already in the works. It's already beginning. And so this one, they're not going to make some of the mistakes that they made in the last one, when they were already very draconian and tyrannical. They're doing it much better now. But this was a test. And it is like Jean-Claude Juncker said many years ago. You know, he was the president of the EU Commission. And he was also a drunk. So sometimes in interviews, he would say the truth. And he said to the media, he said, you know what we do when we want to push something through that we know the people don't like? We announce it. We announce what we're going to do. And if there is no huge pushback, and if the people don't revolt, then we keep going step by step until it's irreversible. That is how they do things, right? So what is the plan? speech has been moved to a large degree online, right? Most speech, and most significant speech, by the way, is online today. The COVID era is a great example of that. The last 5 years, the battleground was digital, right? Which at some point was to our advantage, and now they're trying to turn it to a disadvantage, of course. And how will they do it? Laws are one thing, but see, it is not very efficient and not easy to use law enforcement and to use the judicial system and use all these arenas to go after every instance of prohibited speech. No, the plan is much, much better. And I'm going to unfold this for you today, what they're doing, how they're doing it, and how the today celebrated huge, big free speech platform X is at the center of this conspiracy. And they're going to turn out to be the very worst. And I'm going to show you how they're going to do it. And the solution, of course, which I encourage you to stick around for, because the solution is incredibly simple. We can literally deactivate all of this crap by following a very simple principle. And that's what we're going to all talk about. So let me first tell you what is really happening here. And I want to play a clip for you. And then I'm going to show you the strategy. I want you to keep this clip in mind throughout this entire show. Okay, here's the clip. Very short. Listen to this.
An app that's as good as WeChat in China. And like in China, you can like live on WeChat, basically. It's like, yeah, everyone's like been there. Like you live on WeChat, you do payments, you do everything. It's like, yeah, it's great. Basically, WeChat's kick ass. And we don't have anything like WeChat outside of China. So I was like, my idea would be like, how about if we just copy WeChat? Hey, copy them.
Buys Twitter, copies WeChat.
Yeah, pretty much. Yes.
Let's just copy WeChat. That is basically Elon's idea for X, right? How did he sell this whole thing to the people? Being Mr. Free Speech, before being Mr. Anti-Free Speech, who's followed Elon for a very long time. You know, he wasn't what he is today. He is flip-flopped on that hugely, but of course, that's only in a public perception. So what would building WeChat or turning X into WeChat actually entail? What is WeChat? WeChat is an everything app, that one of the few in China that literally, like Elon says, people live on this app. They do everything. They buy their food, they pay their bills, they pay their public transportation tickets, they book for shows, and whatever they need, everything goes through the WeChat app, okay? Let's look at that for just a little bit here. Well, let's start by free speech, so we kind of get a foundational understanding. While so-called democratic governments publicly uphold free speech as a foundational value, many see it as a potential threat to stability, order, and control. As a result, governments around the world are implementing laws, regulations, and technological measures to curtail it, particularly in areas where it challenges authority, exposes corruption, or disrupts social narratives. One of the most prominent examples is the Chinese everything app WeChat, which Elon Musk said serves as a model for what he wants to turn X into in the future. That's exactly what we just saw in his own words. WeChat is essential to daily life in China, functioning as an all-in-one app for communication, social networking, payments, transportation, shopping, healthcare, and even government services. People use it to chat, make payments, book tickets, order food, access public services, and more, making it almost impossible, this is very important, to navigate modern life without it. However, this centrality comes at a cost. Users must comply with strict government regulations, as political dissent, sensitive topics, or banned content can result in account suspensions, legal penalties, or integration with the social credit system, which impacts access to services and opportunities. WeChat uses algorithms and human moderators to monitor messages, posts, and group chats in real time. Prohibited topics. Content deemed sensitive, such as criticism of the Chinese Communist Party, mentions of Tiananmen Square, or support for Hong Kong independence, is automatically flagged and often removed. Private chats are not exempt. sensitive keywords can trigger surveillance or message deletion, even in encrypted conversations. The platform maintains a list of banned keywords and phrases. Messages containing these terms may be blocked or flagged for review. It sounds almost like the platform we're on here right now. Very, very similar already. WeChat has been known to monitor conversations that involve foreign political events or controversial international issues. All data on WeChat is stored on servers accessible to Chinese authorities. These includes chat, location data, payment transactions, and more. Users' activities are linked to their real identities through mandatory government ID verification. Users who post content considered harmful or sensitive may have their accounts temporarily or permanently suspended. I want to take a little break here, talk a little bit about this. And I want to use X as one of the biggest example because it is the #1 app currently in 140 nations in the world. Okay, well, 140 nations. So X is already implementing these strategies, but it is not yet in the grand punishing phase. So it's doing what every single platform has done in the past. First, attract all the users to the platform and almost let anything fly. It is quite amazing how currently just outright hatred towards an entire group of people, all the Jews, for example. But it's outright incredible what they let stand on it and how bad that has become on the platform. And how most of the content, of course, China criticism is not allowed because out of the 30 plus unknown investors in the X Corporation, which they've been sealed and a judge has upheld that those names not be reflected, it is rumored that a good number of those are institutional Chinese investors. So that's why China criticism is very rare on X. But all the other stuff flies for now. Why? Why does it fly? Because Elon Musk loves free speech, because he is the superhero for humanity, because we now have this amazing godlike AI creature in place? No. It's because they're gathering the data, they're pulling everyone on the platform, they are incentivizing them to become verified members, which means they provide their ID, including biometrics, my friends. They're incentivizing them by giving them the hopium that they're going to get paid for their quality posts. And they're using their algorithm to push certain things very, very hard. That is all to bring people on. And then when that happens, very soon X is going to have their own payment system on there, which you can use all over the internet. You'll be able to do very soon. Within, I believe, by the end of 2025, X will be almost unrecognizable in terms of what else it will offer. And you will feel like this is this grand, amazing thing, this awesome app. I can say what I want. I have all these services. It's so easy. Elon is the best. And sooner rather than later, they're going to tighten this whole ship very much. And Elon's not going to be the one doing it. It's going to be the services and the corporations that you interact with within the X platform that are going to look at your post and give them a score, even if that score is not openly visible yet. And all of a sudden, you're going to find yourself not being able to make that transaction on your bank account. You're not going to be able to do something because your free speech expressions have violated the bank's user agreement. That is exactly where this is going. We're weeks, maybe a few months away from that being rolled out, maybe a year. If we're lucky, we're a year away from that. Okay, what does WeChat do? Repeated violations often result in account termination, cutting off access to a vital tool for social and economic activities. Other users are encouraged to report inappropriate or political sensitive content, fostering a culture of surveillance. You have this to a certain degree with community notes on X. I'm not saying that it is a bad thing to have people sort of scrutinize certain statements and see if more context can be provided, but that's just the beginning. Users are encouraged to snitch on other users. WeChat activity is linked to China's social credit system, where online behavior directly impacts a user's score. We already have a social credit system here in the West. It is simply not openly announced yet, but it is already functioning in the background. It is collecting scores, and it is clearly positioning you through algorithms into certain boxes. Posting banned content can lower a user's social credit score. Lower scores may result in restricted travel, denial of loans, reduced job opportunities, or loss of access to certain services. In the EU, starting in a few months, I believe in fall of 25, if I'm not mistaken, might have that wrong, the test phase of the digital health passport, which is connected to digital ID, by the way, will be over, and it will be implemented en masse, which means that people, to do certain activities, will more and more have to provide their digital health passport. Be sure that they're up to date on everything, on their inoculations, on their doctor's visits, on their medications, which will be monitored by smart pills or smart devices within your body. It's all interconnected, and that will play into the social media platforms, that will play into the banking platforms. You won't be able to get a job interview unless you provide your digital health ID. You won't be able to get a job unless you're up to date on all these things. And of course, by that time, your last worry will be free speech. You'll be worried about surviving in a system that is giving you so much and so many restrictions that you don't even know where to look. I'm sorry to say, this is not theory. This is all already happening. Is there a solution? We're going to get to that. Of course there is. There always is. Conversely, compliance with government-approved behavior may boost scores. And this is what it's going to be. Oh, look, so-and-so has snitched 5 times, and every time we were able to get some of the culprits, well, so-and-so is going to get some additional points on his score so he can travel more next year. Sharing politically sensitive or rumor-spreading content can result in interrogation, fines, or imprisonment under laws such as the cybersecurity law or the criminal law. Now, this sounds a lot like China, and it is in China, but guess what? It's also happening in the UK. It's also increasingly happening in Germany, where the woman posting about horrific sexual abuse, rape by a migrant was jailed and fined over the migrant who raped a young girl who was left out on bail. So for posting about it and for showing the situation, one woman was jailed while the culprit actually doing the horrific crime was, put out on bail. Activists have been arrested in China for organizing protests or spreading anti-government propaganda via WeChat. Well, this is nothing short of what just transpired in the Netherlands, where there was the threat of arrest or shutting a protest down because somebody was planning to read David Icke's words. And we're going to get to the principles of free speech, my friends. I just want you to know where we are at and what Mr. Free Speech Elon Musk is actually doing with X. Fear of repercussions leads many users to self-censor, avoiding topics that could attract negative attention, which is what? Perception control, manipulation of behavior. You are then becoming the judge of yourself. You're saying, if I'm going to say this, I might get into trouble. Is it worth it? This stifles open dialogue and reinforces the government's control over public discourse. WeChat is indispensable in China, functioning as a payment app, ID card, health pass, and more. Losing access effectively cuts individuals off from modern society. Artificial intelligence assigns penalties or flags users automatically, reducing the need for human intervention. All these things, in terms of the technology, the AI, is already happening on X, on Facebook, on Instagram, and all the other on YouTube, all the other big platforms. This is already in place. Algorithmically, you can steer what content to support and what content to suppress, which is called shadow banning, for example. But this is really just the beginning. By 2030, when, if their plans were to succeed, there will be no free speech. because you won't be able to express it any longer. Speech has been, like I said, to a degree of 95% moved to the internet. What is happening in the analog world is you still have sometimes large-scale protests, you still have some physical newspapers, you still have books, but all that is an increasingly shrinking market. Fewer and fewer people are doing this. And in the instance of David Icke, you see what happens when they try to do it. And let's look at David Icke for a moment here. The man, in 35 years of being active in the field of truth and freedom and research and consciousness work, has never been charged with a crime, has never been convicted of a crime, has never even been suspected of a crime. Never ever have there been any David Icke events, speeches, lectures, or protests where people have said, because of what David Icke says, we're looting, we're fighting, we're doing anything. The man has called for peace and nonviolent solutions for 35 years. Yes, he's called out every bullshit that's out there, and that's his right. And now they're saying, and here's what the judicial system, or the government via the judicial system in the Netherlands, is really saying, and not just in the Netherlands. David Icke's effectively banned from Australia, banned from New Zealand, banned from most likely from the United States because they follow each other's restrictions. What are these governments saying? What they're saying is, you, the people, are children. You cannot and shall not decide for yourself what you are listening to or what information you're absorbing. We're telling you what might be harmful for you, and we're not letting you hear it because we know better, because we are the big parent. You're stupid. You're small. You don't know. We don't want you to hear this. Of course, the truth is we don't want you to hear this. That's exactly what this is about. And every time where something like this happens, where a man is banned from entering a country that has done nothing wrong, and I can tell you that on a daily basis, thousands of criminals and pedophiles, drug dealers, and mass murderers are entering the EU knowingly. Nobody gives a shit. But this man has been banned from entering the Netherlands for wanting to appear at a peace rally. For wanting to appear at a peace rally. And now his words are being banned. But it's not his words that are being banned. It is your voice that is being banned. Not that Netherlands is just representative for everywhere. Who has the right to tell me, to tell you what you can say? And where and when you can say it? Free speech zones? Fuck that. What a load of bullshit. Does free speech have limits? Does it have consequences? Free speech always has consequences. Guess who determines the consequences? The listener. Do I agree with what is being said? Will I counter? Will I give another perspective? Do I think that what that person says is stupid and I'm going to show the truth? There are a few sort of agreed upon limitations, if you will, to free speech, but they're not really limitations because they don't prohibit the illegal thing from being said. They just offer a consequence to that being said. The famous example of screaming fire in a theater where there is no fire. What happens? People jump up, they trample on each other and they hurt each other trying to get out. That causes real harm to real people for no reason. Now that will have consequences. But they're not putting duct tape on people's mouths before they enter the theater. They say, if you do this afterwards, we'll deal with it. Other than that, if my free speech offends anyone, hurts anyone's feelings, that's not a reason whatsoever. Nobody has the right to not be offended. Nobody has the right to not have their feelings hurt. It's unfortunate, maybe, we should try to avoid it if we can and speak in a manner that is respectful, but some things will always offend someone. And if you are committed to the truth, you will inadvertently offend most of the people out there who are not committed to the truth. Fuck it. That's their problem, not yours. If someone's not committed to the truth and wants to live a lie and is offended by the truth that you share, fuck it. That's their problem. Has their feelings hurt? Well, go cry for a minute and then put on your big boy or big girl pants and deal with it. The only solution to the madness, and please, please don't get sucked into this idea that Elon Musk and the people around him have any interest in freedom of expression. They want to use it to further their goals, which is, like in Elon's case, a sort of being a conduit between the power structure in the background and the people, being that conduit and appearing as a friend of the people. You don't want to turn X into the everything app WeChat and are a friend to the people. It puts people under tremendous they're very dependent. Yes, is a choice, but everything will be so centralized in these apps if we allow that there will be no participating in society unless we are on these apps and function through these apps. That's why we've been saying for years, this trend is happening. We will not stop it from happening by protesting, by signing petitions, or hoping that we vote in another better person who is the real deal. All of that is crap. It's not working. It's never worked in history. It is a radical stepping into your own freedom. Say what you want to say when you want to say it. Say yes when you mean yes. Say no when you mean no, and act like it. That's all that is required. In one of the examples of where this really worked was in the early days, in the early months of 2020, when they shut everything down, and they shut down, like even in Florida, before DeSantis made the switch or the flip, but they shut down beaches. They said people can't go to the beach because vitamin D will hurt them. I don't know. Anyways, in California, and it might have been Huntington Beach, I'm not sure, don't quote me on that, but it was a fairly well-known big beach where people went to the beach. A few people, 10, 15, 20, defied the ordinances, the mandates, which means nothing anyways, but they defied it, went to the beach. Police came, arrested them, as you would expect. Well, a few days later, 1,000 people went to the beach. Guess what they did? They lifted that ordinance because that's all they can do. They cannot arrest 1,000 people at once, not 5,000. They can't go after millions of people expressing themselves freely. They can go after 1, after 3, after 5, after 10. But they can't go after everyone. And all that has to happen for that is for people to stop living in their own prison of their own mind and be brave enough to be who they are and say what they mean. I'm not saying go out and be mean to someone on purpose, but if what you say offends someone, so what? Boo-hoo. So what? We can deal with it. We're all adults here. It's an opinion, and you're entitled to it. You don't need a law on the books in your country. You don't need a constitutional amendment or rule that says, or you're allowed to say it. If you can speak or write or sign or whatever to express yourself, guess what? You can do it. You don't need permission from anyone. Unless, of course, you want that. You want to be in a system where you ask the big daddy and the big mama to give you permission to speak. But other than that, you are absolutely free because you exist to say what the fuck you want to say. And if you don't express that, and if you don't live that, and if you censor yourself, and if you restrict yourself, and if you live in fear, I'm sorry, but then you simply deserve what you've coming. I can't put it any other way. If we are not and not express who we are, then we deserve what we have coming. then we deserve, because somebody, if we don't use our freedom, somebody's going to use it. If we don't use our minds, somebody's going to use it against us. If we don't use our ability to speak and express ourselves, then somebody else is going to use it for us and against us. And here we are, we're at the precipice of a digital enslavement system that no one can even imagine. And if 2020 onward hasn't shown that to you, what has happened? A sort of instant conspiracy between corporations and governments that was long prepared, but they shut people down unlike anything we've ever seen. They shut down, you remember, and whatever really transpired, right? Whatever that really was, we have an idea of what actually transpired. We know it wasn't the official story whatsoever. But I remember that a lot of people were having success with HCQ and with ivermectin and all those things, right? Remember? Do you know why they had the biggest suppression campaign in history against those usually readily available and highly successful drugs? Because if they would have to admit that there was a treatment or cure, then they couldn't have gotten the emergency authorization for an experimental, because that's how their own laws work. In order to be able to get emergency authorization for an experimental treatment or experimental drug, you have to prove that there are no options currently on the market, of which there were enough. And that's why they suppressed the fuck out of everything and didn't allow anyone to speak about it. Simple as that. I mentioned the Twitter files. There I mentioned the collusion between the FBI and Facebook and the NSA and Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and all the other platforms. There I mentioned the connection between the CEOs and the owners of those platforms with the people in government that are in charge and how they're intermarried and related to each other. None of these things I need to mention anymore. They're out in the open now. But here's the thing. There are no solutions to be found in the government, in the bureaucracy, in the administration, in the judicial system. Forget that. The only solution is you and me and all of us to become the best possible version of ourselves and to do what we can with what we have where we are every single day. We're at war. We have been at war, and this war is not ending tomorrow. That isn't pleasant to say. It's not a beautiful thing whatsoever, but that's the reality that we find ourselves in. And we can try and fight that, like on the level of fighting. And that likely means that we've already lost. Or we can try, and not just try, but we can actually decide and intend to triumph. As our dear friend Greg Braden puts it so beautifully, to triumph. Because we have what they don't have, and we're able to do things and be things that they can't be. And when we are and when we do, we triumph. But no more acquiescence, no more collaboration, no more voluntary self-enslavement. You have nothing to lose, my friends. Nothing to lose. Because in this world, at this time today, it's either break free or die trying, you know? I think that's Jason over at Archaics who uses that line often, right? Break free or die trying. Those are the options. There are no other options. There's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to flee. There's no place on earth that will be different. So everywhere in the world, everyone who sees this, hears this, and feels this has to activate themselves right now. And all you have to do is be who you are and say what you think. And say goodbye to fear. All right. If there's any questions, you know, we're in some places it's already tomorrow, by the way. In Australia, it's already tomorrow. Happy New Year. Europe is getting closer. So if you have any questions in this remaining few hours, in these remaining few hours of 2024, I'd be happy to answer them, whatever the subject may be. And and then let's set the right intentions for this year to come. Meanwhile, I wanted to thank our wonderful moderator, Ronnie, who's been showing up amazingly. Thank you so much for your incredible help and work and beautiful presence. We so cherish you and appreciate you, my friend. And of course, to my wonderful wife, who's the heart, the soul, the brains of so many of the operations and the wise thumbs in the live chat, Christine. So here's the first question from Kara. Kara, will you start a Discord for us? Way easier to share documents and talk to each other. Thank you for asking that question. We have been for 2024, the entirety of 2024, about 30% over capacity, which means we have worked at a probably level of 130% of what we actually could do long term. So the short answer is no. There's simply no capacity to do that. We have locals, we have YouTube, we are on X for that particular reason, because we are a counter movement there. And there's the time and place where everybody needs to step up according to their own inspiration, start that Discord, create a good structure, and then when the structure is good, and when we think it's something that everybody should or could be involved in, we'd be happy to share it with people. But we can't do it all ourselves, my friend. But thank you for asking. Appreciate you. Shakti Veda, yes. Are we the OPPT? The ones, well, that's it used to be the one people's public trust, not the planetary trust. But OPPT, I often say to every now and then when I talk to one of the people who were initially involved in OPPT and did the UCC filings, and for some of you that might mean something, for others that means nothing. It's much too big of a subject to go into here, but I tell them often that even though it looked like in 2012 or 2011, 2012 when they did it, that it didn't have an effect, I think we're experiencing the ripples of that, and I think it really did send a huge ripple through the system back then. But what we are is individual expressions of infinite consciousness, and once we realize that and embody that on all level, it's already game over for anyone who wishes to suppress us. But that needs to be embodied. Pavel Lewandowski, do you know about ID in UK? Are you talking about digital ID? Are you talking about what are you talking about, Pavel? And if you want to expand on that while we jump to the next question, please do. Fearlessly Phoenixing. Well, she always shows up for the questions. Is there anything we can do to help you to help lighten the load? Yes. Thank you. That's a great question. I love that question. Here's the thing, and I'll give you a little bit of a broader answer, and then you pull out what feels right for you. We get emails and messages and comments with some amazing ideas. And here's how most of those emails start. I have an idea. Here's what I think you should do. That's how the email starts, addressing us. Hey, John and Christine, thank you for everything you do. I have an idea. Here's what I think you should do. And they point the finger at us. And then they share their great idea. And what we usually answer is, thank you so much for sharing this with us. We think that's a great idea. And since you had the idea, the inspiration came through you, why don't you do it? And usually we never hear from them again. Or an email comes back with, I've got a lot on my plate. I can't do this. And I get it. No worries. But like I said in my earlier comment, we're over capacity, and we have been. So whatever you feel inspired to do, and I mean inspired, take the first step and the next step and the next step, always with the premise, do what you can with what you have where you are. And you will see that if you follow that inspiration, then you're not necessarily helping us to lighten the load, but you are contributing to the raising of consciousness, to sharing solutions, or amplifying or illuminating a problem that isn't very visible yet. So all of these things you can do according to your own inspiration. And that would be the greatest support and help that we could possibly ask for.
She's saying that.
And then we'll go to the other. Is there a group setting on locals that perhaps people could come together to make things happen? As sometimes the ideas are there, but the skill set may not be, or things like such. So, you know, locals is it probably has its limitations. It's a beautiful platform, a lot of great things that are happening there. And I think the simplest way would be for you to use it as a springboard, for example. So you have an idea, you build a little website that is sort of open source that people can share on, for example. All of these things are very simple to do these days. And then you can just post about it on Locals and invite people in. That would be one way to do it. Locals currently doesn't have the infrastructure to host what you're talking about, and they might in the future. So, but we, you know, when we see something of value, and when we see something that we think contributes positively in a very good way, we'll of course share it with our people. So that would be sort of my my suggestion, is to find the platform or build a small website. Again, very easy to do now, that fulfills or has your functions that you need, and then share it on Locals for others to find it.
I lost the question about
Digital ID. Yeah, about so the premise of digital ID is the same everywhere in the world. There's no difference in the UK from the US, and no government is currently opposed to it, including the incoming administration, by the way. They might not call it that, but national ID is already here. Digital ID is already in the works. So the idea of digital ID is very simple. You have an app on your phone that has all your biometrics, all your data, everything in there. And you use that app as you would your ID now, your driver's license, right? And so you say, what's the problem? It's the same as my plastic card. It's just on a phone. Well, when they implemented Social Security in the United States, they said to the people, it was never going to be used to identify you. It was never going to be used for you to have to use it to get any services, or it would never be required to prove, to give your Social Security number to get anything. Now I encourage you to try and open a bank account without a Social Security number. You know, get a phone plan, internet access, nothing anymore without it. So the digital ID is the next step, which is basically a digital handshake everywhere you go. Most importantly, when you're on the internet. Today, you can still find a way to go on the internet. You know, you might use a good VPN, not get tracked. If that's what you want to do, that's your right. Because the internet is nothing but a digital infrastructure. You don't have to have ID to travel on the road and walk on the sidewalk or travel about, right? And that's what's happening everywhere in the world. And through that, the 24/7 tracking of all of your activities, digital and analog. Because the idea of smart cities is, which are implemented at a very fast pace, that you will check in with your digital ID everywhere you go, to which everything will be connected through an everything app like X/WeChat. And so when you want those fries, and the app says that you have already surpassed your cholesterol or your fried food limit or whatever, or your carbon footprint's too high, then you won't be able to purchase them. This is, the technology is already here for it. This is being rolled out as we speak. I'm not going to try to pronounce your name, my friend. What do you think the impact of the story about Giselle Pellico and France will have on the psyche of the French patriarchy? I have no idea. No idea whatsoever. So I can't answer that question. Maybe someone else can. Inner liberation healing. That's Debbie, right?
Yes.
I'm still working on not coming back to the construct and matrix on all levels. What are your thoughts at this time about this? Going into the void instead. My thoughts in a certain way are very consistent, at least some of those thoughts. For me, there's a principle at work, and And that's the principle I hold myself accountable to, and I fall short because I have blind spots like everyone else in this world, and I'm working on them. But the principle is this: there is objective, undeniable truth. That is a principle. We have lived collectively in undeniable lies for such a long time that we are recalibrating our beings, if we wish to truth. When you're fully calibrated to truth, and that is a process, right? When you're fully recalibrated to truth, then deceptions and lies cannot have any power over you any longer. But those truths must be on all levels, the truth must be on all levels, not just the ones that are more comfortable than others. So when you find yourself and sort of expose yourself to yourself and go, hey, I kind of notice I've been lying to myself about this. I've been making excuses. I've been looking the other way, although I see the truth. That's when you can shift, forgive yourself, shift and calibrate to the truth. Now, the truth is you're an infinite being, you're infinite consciousness having this human experience. When you live according to that truth, I do not see, even taking into account what all the other people have said about it, I do not see a way that you could be deceived out of that truth ever again. So that to me is the fundamental principle. And truth, does truth mean going into the void? For me, that's what it means. Like that's why I've gone there. That's where I've gone to explore it, to find it, to embody it, to feel it. Yes. But I don't believe that life must happen on a strict regimen for that to occur when you leave the body. I think it is a calibration to truth, but that does require discipline, and that does require full honesty with oneself. And I think those are the first steps. When that becomes more normal again, more embodied again, all the other stuff I think begins to appear automatically. JPB, as a guitar player, did you ever go down of course, 432 hertz rabbit hole naturally? And there's other frequencies that I've played with and experimented with. And the disruptive energy of 440, what I have found as a songwriter, and especially as a recording artist, as incredibly challenging is the calibration of the entire system to 440, and in the heads of the people never having questioned it. There are more and more musicians, thankfully. But so here's my where I landed was, do I not write music or release music because I can't always do it in 432 or other or on other levels that I would like to, and rather not release it? Or do I release it and work towards harmonizing that? And that's been my approach in this. But I mention it everywhere I go, and I'm finding that more and more people are open to it. However, the industry is not. The industry is looking for more disruptive patterns to use. So it's more like a breakaway group of people that are doing this and will continue to do this more and more. There's another problem is with the platforms that music is released on that sometimes require 440. So there's all those things that play into it. Audra, I have an old question. I saw the stipulation of a retreat you held a while ago that guests should not be taking stimulating drugs such as for ADHD. Why is that? What is that impact? So while we have never specified what any drug is taken for, we have always had the policy that if you take any mind altering drugs, that our retreat won't work for you. The reason being that, and this is, I'm gonna speak from my experience and label this as a strict opinion, okay? Not as any medical fact, nor am I giving any medical advice or telling you what to do. When the effect that most of the such drugs have is that they create a buffer between your authentic feelings and intuition and you. There's a buffer between you and those feelings and those intuitions. That's what these biochemical reactions do in the brain and throughout the body. And what we do in such retreats, or have done in the past over 4 days or whatnot, is we are constantly working at the core of you, where your feelings are, the suppressed feelings, the emotions, the intuition. We're working with the essence of you. When you don't have access to that essence, all the work that we do does not work, right? We also can't do it with somebody who's been drinking, right? It prohibits. And when in the past we have experimented with trying that, it has never worked and it has caused frustration, right? So that's just, you can't operate heavy vehicles when you're drinking. Nobody questions that. But you also can't go into deep meditative processes and healing processes when taking certain drugs. Is that it? Last question?
Yes, that was the last question.
Okay. Well, thank you all so much. It's been an incredible year. Let me put it this way. I want to end on more than a positive note. The most positive thing that I could possibly say, and that we have been saying, is that you are the one you've been waiting for. I can't think of a better message. And it's a lived truth for us. Since I've embodied this in my own life, there are no limits to what I can be, who I can be, what I can do. 2024 has been a year of expansion of consciousness. We have now numbers for this. We've shared these numbers with you. By you becoming the best possible version of you and us continually becoming the best possible version of ourselves, we're not only improving our own lives, we are improving the experience of the collective, and we are helping the collective. Whether they know it or not is besides the point. In that, 2024 has been the greatest year of expansion, to my recollection, and the numbers prove it. We are still facing monumental challenges in the physical world of the construct, and that's not going to go away anytime soon, despite of what the hopium wants you to believe. But it matters less than we think when we embody that true essence of who we are. Then we sort of start deactivating those things by default. It could be over overnight. If millions and millions and millions of people sort of feel it and snap out of it, but more likely is a gradual progression. What I would encourage you to focus on for 2025 are these 18 words. Become the best possible version of yourself. How? Do what you can with what you have where you are. Simple as that. No more excuses. And the best possible version of you is independent. It does not require all the stuff and people around you to be able to do certain things or be certain things. The best possible version of you is free. The best possible version of you is loving. The best possible version of you is joyous. Not 24/7, but as a general feeling. The best possible version of you is balanced. But remember, it's a journey. You don't just wake up one day and you are these things. You commit every day to doing what you can. Not extreme things, just step by step by step by step, baby steps. Baby steps have incredible impact. And when the world wants you to look in all kinds of directions, remember that it wants to distract you from one direction, and that is inward, where all the answers have always been there. So for 2025, we're walking this incredibly fine line of becoming even better than we ever have been. I'm talking about all of us, but also not letting up in our presence in the world, not becoming sort of disillusioned, disenfranchised, disinterested, show our presence, be fully there, and learn to say no every single time we want to say no without exception. It's powerful. The no is extremely powerful. And when we say no, we first must decide what we want to say yes to. Now, when we know what we're saying yes to in life, we're automatically saying no to everything that's not that. And that's the key point. So if you know that freedom is yours to be and to have and to live, you're automatically saying no to everything that's not that. Now, understanding this on a mental level, it's not too hard. Living it, doing it every day, it requires courage. It requires discipline. I believe you have it in you. No, I know you have it in you. And I think we can probably create some currently unimaginable things within the span of the next 12 months. I have no doubt about that. But it will only work when we continually show up. All right, my friends. Have a wonderful start of the new year in Matrix calendar terms anyways. Be blessed. Give yourself some rest time. Take many deep breaths. And we'll see you on the other side, my friends. We love you. We appreciate you and thank you on behalf of the entire Inspired team for being who you are and being on this journey with us. Much love, and we'll see you very soon.
Right now, you could be only a few clicks away from experiencing something amazing, something that has changed thousands of lives all over the world. I'm talking about a high consciousness field similar to those at pilgrimage sites and sacred places. It's where people go to heal, to connect, and to become the best possible version of themselves. With FLFE, you can bring such a high consciousness field into your home right now. It's a spiritual quantum technology based on the work of Nikola Tesla. Better sleep, more energy, greater well-being, improved finances, electrosmog mitigation. These are only some of the things people on the FLFE service are experiencing. Try it now for 15 days completely free of charge, no credit card needed. Just click on a link down below to start your free, no strings attached FLFE trial right now.